Who is that?
My name is Remy Siu. I was born and raised in Vancouver, BC. My family is from Hong Kong, and I go back a lot these days doing work there. I'm a curator in residence with Contemporary Music in Hong Kong, which is an organization for experimental music there. I studied at Simon Fraser University Contemporary Arts, which is an interdisciplinary art school where I studied music composition and film. So the way that I compose, I don't use any traditional Western notation. I think I was having a really hard time with traditional scores. I was frustrated that when I'm working on a score, say like a pencil and paper, even if I had a system I was following, there was too much intention from my part. Of course, composers in the history of Western music composition have dealt with this issue of intention. For me, my solution was to build these kinds of reactive algorithmic systems that do respond to player input and that allow varying degrees of player agency, performer agency. For my work, New Notations for Multiplayer, it's a 2 to 4 player multiplayer game that allows 4 performers to work together in a virtual environment to craft a kind of sound performance, audiovisual performance. And so the players are controlling their actions inside this virtual world with an Xbox One controller, and they can do all sorts of things in terms of manipulating sound, choosing sounds, working together, working against one another. And so the way that it's built is that all my compositional agency lives inside the mechanics. So things that I decide, like to a certain extent how fast they move in this virtual space, is a compositional decision I get to make. What's the minimum speed? What's the maximum speed? What can they do in the virtual space? Those are how I express my compositional agencies in this work. And then when we go to rehearse it, the rest of it is left up to them. So the performers are making decisions in real time during the performance about what they should do and how they should work together, which is, for me, I find exciting. And that's one of the reasons why the piece is really, really quite different every time. And what's also kind of risky about it is that building the system, I wanted it to be clear to the audience when something was not working. And that was important to show the audience when it's not working so they can understand when it is working. So when building this work, we had this kind of weird thing we had to do where we're trying to make sure that it can fail as much as it can succeed, so that it's not always a foolproof kind of work. So there's stakes, I think, in the performance.
Did we all find it, or?
It seems like it.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
I'm having my own party, sorry guys.
In fact, in rehearsal, we always have this discussions about like, the performers ask me like, was that good? Do you think that was good, or should we do something else? And I try to restrain myself as much as I can from telling them what to do. And I hope that the 4 of them, at least in this case at Gaudeamus, there's 4 of them, will self-organize and decide what they want to do. So they really have a lot of agency. Almost everything that I've already decided has been done. It's really designed so that if another group of 4 were playing it, they'll play it really differently. And that's the point. Like we want to have as many people play it as possible, and when they do play it, what they're interested in really is reflected in how they perform it. What's funny is that we do allow the audience to play the work afterwards. So the audience at the end of the concert will get to stick around and pick up the controller and play with each other and get to know the instrument.